You might think you know everything about the galaxy from long ago and far away, but here are 12 facts you might not know about the first Marvel era of Star Wars. The very first Star Wars comic was Marvel's Star Wars #1, which launched in spring 1977. Written by former Marvel editor-in-chief Roy Thomas and with art by comics legend Howard Chaykin. The Marvel era of Star Wars comics would last until 1986, with the release of issue number 107 by Joe Duffy and Cynthia Martin. Lucasfilm originally approached Stan Lee about adapting Star Wars into a comic in 1975, but Lee declined, wanting to focus on original characters rather than licensed ones. But Roy Thomas, who had also brought the license to Conan the Barbarian to Marvel, saw the potential in Star Wars and talked Lee into agreeing. Movie tie-ins were not considered to be good sellers in the late 70s, so one of the things that helped convince Marvel to publish the Star Wars comic was that the adaptation rights were free. Marvel and Lucasfilm came to an agreement where Marvel wouldn't have to pay a penny in royalties until the book sold over 100,000 copies. They shouldn't have been worried about low sales. The only specific thing that Lucasfilm asked for is that the book launch several months before the release of the movie, as publicity for the film. As a result, Thomas and Chaykin had to write and draw the comic adaptation based only on a few stills from the film, early drafts of the script, and designs by Ralph McQuarrie. Because Thomas and Chaykin did not even see the movie until the first several issues of the comic were on the stands, there are a number of differences between the comic and the movie, including the cantina scene being considerably more violent, and the inclusion of scenes that didn't make the final cut of the movie, such as Luke's life on Tatooine with his friends Cammy and Fixer. When Star Wars launched in 1977, Marvel's top-selling title, Amazing Spider-Man, was selling about 250,000 copies, and comic sales were down across the board, leading many to worry about the future of comics. Star Wars #1 sold over 1 million copies, over 4 times as many as Spider-Man. Former Marvel editor-in-chief Jim Shooter gives Star Wars and Roy Thomas credit for saving Marvel in the 70s. The success of Star Wars led Marvel to further pursue licensed comics, which were previously perceived as sales losers. Marvel went on to have great success in the 1980s with such licensed properties as G.I. Joe, Transformers, Micronauts, and ROM Space Knight. While the first 6 issues of the Marvel Star Wars series adapted the first movie, and issues number 39 to 44 adapted The Empire Strikes Back, the majority of the 107-issue run was made up of original stories, some including characters from the first film, and others introducing original characters. The first story not based on the film was a Han Solo-centric story that explains why Han doesn't pay back Jabba the Hutt. This story was inspired by the 1960 Western film The Magnificent Seven, and saw Han and Chewie joined by a number of aliens who aided them. The most notorious of these aliens was Jaxxon, a 6-foot green rabbit who looked like Bugs Bunny. George Lucas reportedly hated Jaxxon, but Roy Thomas defended his creation, saying he was inspired by an alien who looked like Porky the Pig in the cantina scene, and that a giant space rabbit was no weirder than a Wookiee. The majority of the copies of the first 4 issues of Marvel Star Wars came with a cover price of 30 cents. However, there exists an incredibly limited number of covers with a 35-cent cover price, which Marvel released only in 4 states as a test market for a price increase. These 35-cent variants are highly desired by collectors. In 2015, now that Marvel Comics and Lucasfilm were both under the umbrella of the Walt Disney Company, Marvel launched a new line of Star Wars comics, with solo titles featuring such characters as Darth Vader, Princess Leia, and Lando Calrissian. That's it for this episode of You Think You Know Comics. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Comics Alliance for more comic facts, and check out comicsalliance.com for more comic awesomeness.